I've forgotten the intro. Welcome to Justice Losers, the podcast where we discuss entertainment media, namely movies, TVs, and comics. I'm your host, Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host.
Got there, Fat Matt.
Wow. I just straight up forgot the intro.
Good stuff.
Matt, what should people do?
Like, subscribe, and check out our Instagram highlights. We highlight things on Instagram. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Cute little picture of Preston in a toga.
Yeah.
It was very delightful.
It's my mom's favorite picture. Matt.
Preston.
What are we talking about?
I already told you. We're talking about some terrible movies.
Are we?
Well, also some other stuff, but
yeah,
mostly. So this is the third episode in our 4-part series.
Episode number 3.
On the growth of the superhero as an icon of popular culture, starting from their origins in mythology and the mythological hero, moving through more literary prototypes of the modern superhero. And today, the big selling point, the big main part of the topic is going to be modern interpretations of those mythic heroes.
Yes. How did we get here, and how has that through line existed?
Yep. One thing I do notice, most of these have below average ratings on everything, audience and critic. As you pointed out, they didn't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
There are a few that made a decent chunk of change. There's none of these that are really big, break the bank kind of blockbusters.
Right.
None of these broke $500 million, except Moana, but that's different.
Yeah.
I think we can kind of pull the Disney Hercules and Moana out of the way because they're Disney animated movies and they kind of just know what they're doing and they're going to have a market anyway.
Yeah.
So we can set those aside. The rest of these, Troy Clash and Wrath of the Titans Immortals, Percy Jackson, Dwayne Hercules, The Legend of Hercules, Gods of Egypt. This is just a bunch of below average movies that didn't make much money. Yeah. And I'm not cherry picking this list.
This is a comprehensive list of
this
these
is
movies
a
that came out.
fairly comprehensive list of modern movies starring mythological heroes.
Yeah.
Why haven't they been able to do it right? Why haven't they done it right?
I think, so here's the thing that is, it's among our realm of people who are nerds about comics and watching these superhero movies.
Okay.
Is that they often do either completely original stories with characters we know, or they very loosely base on an existing story if they can.
Yeah.
And I think something that might contribute to that, I'm curious, in these, like the ones with the ancient heroes, is that no one cares about those characters.
Oh, snap.
Like, it's... You could have said in 2005 that no one cares about superhero movies. Like, the X-Men movies kind of got some stuff because it was just cool action stuff, but like overall, they didn't.
Spider-Man 1 and 2 were pretty great.
They were good, yeah. I think what got Iron Man in is because it had star power, and it was also just genuinely really good, and they built from there.
Yeah.
But these are characters that people just kind of vaguely know. You can either tell a story from mythology and it's like weird because they're so fantastical. You have to spend so much money on effects to just like make like the river Styx a thing, like all that.
And they're also, I mean, you think about these mythological stories, these are oral tradition accumulations of ideas that, and just sensibilities, the images, metaphors that were part of a culture that's 3,000 years old.
Right.
And sure, there are some consistencies between their culture back then and ours. There's a reason we still think about these mythological heroes at all, but the stories just feel kind of nonsensical. Yeah. There are some like basic thematic elements, sure, that carry through. The hero's journey kind of originates with some of this mythology stuff. Yeah. But it's written for these stories are created for different people at a different place, different medium. They don't lend themselves to a good story. So you tell an original story with characters, but then also the characters are so loosely defined. They're like, what's Perseus actually do? And like the books of Percy Jackson are pretty good, aren't they? They're great.
Yeah. So like you can tell a story there, but it doesn't translate to the screen. And I think that's where you suffer a lot. We also have a really small sample size, so we can't say a whole lot about you're sitting at a sample size of what, maybe like 8? Yeah. And you can't say much with that. It could just be a coincidence that all 8 of them are just bad movies. Yeah. No, it has nothing to do with no trend of like this type of movie doesn't work. I mean, you still like we have so many superhero movies at this point that Like,
there are more than 8 bad superhero movies.
There are more, but there's also like 800 superhero movies.
Although, let's hop back into the MCU for a second. 2 of the worst MCU movies are Thor 1 and Thor 2, which are the most rooted in mythology.
Really hope Kaylin doesn't listen to this episode because she's going to despise you. She loves Thor.
I could pull the numbers and show that they have the worst Metacritic ratings and the worst budget payoffs.
She enjoyed them. So I
don't think they're bad. I just think that they're bottom tier for the MCU.
Yeah. My main theory is the one that I've already said, that like it's just too fantastical to really capture well.
Right.
Like,
because an
Thor's
alien
world
that has the form of a human that crash landed on Earth and was raised by humans and then goes around with his underpants outside of a blue suit and punches people except when there's a green rock in his face, because then it makes him weak.
Here's the difference, though. Let's compare Thor and Superman.
All right, let's do it.
Superman was raised human, showed up as a baby, and was raised human and has human problems.
Okay.
He just happens to have powers that he then has to go around and like deal with humans and stuff. Thor is a literal god. True. So half of his time is spent on Asgard with other literal gods. So they have god problems and it feels distant.
Hercules was raised by humans, right?
Was he?
I mean, it depends on the story, but a lot of these Hercules stories, it's like, yeah, he's just...
Yeah, and those, like, the Disney one, it plays really hard into him being raised by humans. Yeah, no,
it totally follows full hero's journey.
And that is a great story. Like, that movie's great.
Clash of the Titans, though. A lot of money and talent went into that one. Same basic contour. He's the son of a god, but he's raised by humble humans, and he spends the first act trying not to be involved with the gods and their problems.
But he ends up going and dealing with gods and their problems. And Superman, for the most part, like the best Superman story. Oh, and again, I'm not going to disagree that the worst Superman stories are the ones where he's being a god dealing with god problems. Like, we've talked about it before on episodes where, like, I hate the ones where it's just like the solution to a Superman problem is just to punch better. Like, the best Superman ones are the ones where he is like dealing with Lena Long and like Lois Lane and like his friends as human friends. The better stories are told when it is a human, because it's people connecting with the story. Like, you can't connect with Thor being this whiny, bitchy, like, kid who lost his hammer and wants it back. It's a distant thing. Meanwhile, there's Iron Man, who is this arrogant prick, human flaw, being a human, and does things that, like, is kind of human possible. Like, make a machine to go do things, like, and then also literally, like, gets punched in the face hard enough he's out. That doesn't happen with Thor. I think that's it. I think it's just how much of a reach it is for us to connect with the character.
Yeah, I want to read, I want to quote a paragraph. Actually, it's the first paragraph of an essay in the journal Media Psychology by a fellow named William Indick. As the central figure in the film experience, the hero is the integral archetype in the collective unconscious of American culture. He is at once a collective and personal encounter, as each individual in the audience identifies personally with the hero's story, while the hero simultaneously embodies the collective hopes and ideals of the culture that creates him. It is this compound phenomena, the personal identification with the collective hero, that makes the hero archetype so psychologically powerful.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, so let's look at back at like last week's episode, tying in that with it. The thing we kind of realized is a lot of the super power, like the Superman trope, a lot of them were bad people.
Yeah.
Like, that's the fear of just like this unbeatable evil.
Right.
And then the vigilante, like the mass vigilante, are all humans. Like, Robin Hood's just really good at shooting things. Scarlet Pimpernel is just really good at lying. Stuff like that, where it is the hero, it's someone that we can connect with. And I think that that's something that you get your successful supermen when you play to the humanity. So, okay. I'm starting to kind of come up with something.
Okay. Hit me.
Way back when these demigods were oral stories, they could connect with the cultural psyche, or what was the thing they said?
Something like that. The collective hopes and ideals of the culture.
Collective hopes and ideals. They could connect with those because it wasn't far-fetched that these people exist, that it's real, that like you could be the son of a god and you just didn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you are.
Yeah.
And like you could connect with that. And so like that's why those stories succeeded so far back then. But then now we know that that's not going to happen. Like we know that that's not real. Like you can have religion, but you're like, I'm not the son of a demigod. Like there's too much science now to disprove that. But now like we can't connect with that.
Right.
So you take these stories like Superman and like Captain America, and you have to ground them so heavily in humanity in order for us to connect with it.
And
but
not
then you
just humanity, but a modern human society that is recognizable to us today.
Exactly. And then so you start telling these stories with like Theseus and Hercules and stuff, and it's these gods that we know we can't be. There's just these like unreachable things, and also in a setting that is not familiar to us.
Yeah.
It's about the writing of like connecting it with the humanity, and that's something that ties in the superhero versus the ancient hero is understanding humanity,
right,
and where we are.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I do want to push back a little bit.
Okay,
Clash of the Titans, it does a pretty good job of emphasizing Perseus's humanity throughout. There's a point in the midpoint when Zeus comes down and appears to him and says, "Hey, son, come join me on Olympus. Be a god like you were always meant to be." And he's like, "Nah, I'm a human."
But also, okay, so like back to my point originally is that he is a demigod. He is the son of a god, which immediately puts this barrier between us and him.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
it's
Superman.
It's something where there's sort of two types of the heroic archetype. There's the human who achieves superhuman feats through determination or will or mastery of their particular craft, Iron Man building a suit. Right. Or there's the human that has a mythological superhuman origin that is revealed to them when they start their hero's journey.
Right. Well, so I think it's with Superman, a lot of the most successful stories are him defending humanity.
Yeah.
Not dealing with God problems. Like
unless
people come and
it's like a godlike being like Brainiac coming down from the sky and trying to take over.
Well, yeah, but he's defending humanity.
Right. Like Perseus is defending humanity against the Kraken.
I don't know. I mean that you make a really good point that it is like what separates Superman from
I think it's
them.
I think it's two-pronged. I think part of it is you have to hit both the humanity and the cultural relevance.
Right.
And so the classical heroes, you can hit the humanity all you want. And you can craft a, relatively compelling hero in Perseus relative to the modern superheroes.
Right.
Or just pick an average superhero movie. You get the humanity element. You get some of those themes. But you don't get the same cultural relevance.
Right.
You don't get the same just tone, motifs and stuff. You can also have a great movie that is set way in the past and just deals with a different culture and different experiences. Gladiator. Something like that. But then you have to hit the humanity part really hard.
Right. And they do.
You have to just eliminate the fantastical elements.
Yeah.
You have to...
you have like a capacity of, or like a quota of the sum of the two, that if you can't get cultural reference, like you said, you need to nail the human thing.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of like if you can do both pretty well, then you do a good job. Like with good Superman stories, they kind of do both pretty well. Like Superman, half of what he is, more than half of what he is just this human reporter dude that's dealing with problems.
Yep.
But then also he goes and beats the shit out of a building.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point.
Because then you talk about like cultural relevance, like with like Iron Man, he's very human, but also like not super culturally relevant because he's just this billionaire that you can't really like.
No, but we understand what a modern version of a billionaire
That's
is.
True.
We have a collective cultural
Also, he is
image.
just that movie is just fantastic, so it does both of them really well.
Yeah. I mean, you also, third point, you have to actually make a good story.
True. Yeah. And that's something that we can't like. We have to constantly like.
Yeah, you have to set that aside.
Deal with that problem where like, oh, like why are these movies bad? Because it just be that they're just badly written stories.
Yeah, no, it's entirely possible. But I mean, I think that the two are not inextricable, because I think that a lot of these end up being bad movies because they don't get the kind of talent attached to them that they need to make good movies.
I like it.
All right.
Thesis.
Modern interpretations of mythic heroes are very hard to do right because it turns out that telling a heroic story, you have to connect both with the culture of the audience that's experiencing it and with the humanity and human themes of, well, humans.
Yep.
I guess. Good stuff. And you also just have to tell a good story.
Right.
And if you hit those three elements, you're going to do a good job. A lot of these movies and a lot of modern interpretations
inherently cannot hit two of the three.
Have a lot of trouble hitting two of the three.
Yep.
Hey guys, Preston here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you saw here, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we upload these every Thursday. If you want to hear more, we have an unabridged version on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and any other podcast app. Check us out on Instagram at JusticeLosersPod. See you next week.